Hi guys, today let's work on some thumbnailing together. I love this step of the process, but I almost never show it because I'm really bad at filming it. It's kind of difficult to film under my hand while I'm sketching it, but yeah, we're gonna do it today and we're gonna chit chat and work on some artwork. This is one of my favorite steps because it is the birth of the piece. It's when I get to really experiment and figure out new ideas, and this is when I can get excited and committed to an idea. So I love doing this. Yeah. But yeah, the thing that I'm working on today is the postcard artwork for Patreon for July. The one that won was Gothic Snow White, which I'm really excited about. I think it's gonna be fun to mix those two things together, figure out how I can have my own take on this fairy tale. The first thing that I always do when I'm starting off an idea like this is I like to go and do research as far as what's the source material, if there is a source material. And I also like to see what other artists have done, kind of other takes that have already existed, just so I can get the ideas moving a little bit. But I went back and I read the original fairy tale of Snow White, since it's actually really short. Mainly the things I was looking for the description of Snow White herself, so that I can make sure that I'm matching it to the original source rather than anything that had happened after that. And I also was looking for specific events within the story that would be striking, even though I already had an idea from the beginning that I was pretty tied to. And yeah, it was helpful. And because this is part of the whole like package artwork that I do for Patreon, there's going to be other artwork as well that fits this theme. So while I'm working on this specific scene within that story, there's going to be different elements within the fairy tale that I'm going to make into artwork. So the scene that I want to focus on first during my thumbnailing is when Snow White has taken a bite of the poison apple and she's fallen to the ground, seemingly dead. I think it'll be really dramatic. I can play a lot with the pose because she's on the ground. She can basically be any, yeah, it's like she's floating. And there's free reign of how I want to compose the figure and how she's interacting with the apple. One of the things that I really want to focus on is the dynamic shape that she's creating. I would like it to be dynamic rather than something a little bit more static that I autopilot to. I have to work a lot harder to make sure that it's a little bit more flowy and dynamic. So the first idea that came to my head is that I want her to be interacting with the apple in a certain way so that there's tension in the negative space around the apple, as well as her figure not quite interacting with the apple anymore. So yeah, we're gonna see how that goes, explore some different compositions, some different ideas, and also I'm going to specifically try to think about what are the Gothic elements that I can put into this piece so that it does fit that marriage of the themes together. But I'm excited to work on this, so let's just keep on working on these thumbnails. So as I am working on these thumbnails, I've kind of settled in two different approaches. There's one where she's lying on the ground, and then there's another where it's right before she's collapsed, where she's propping herself up a little bit more. And yeah, I've just explored a couple of different iterations of both of those ideas. They both have their pros and their cons as far as composition. So I'm really at this point just trying to decide which direction I want to push it. So the one in the upper left-hand corner, I really like some of the shape language that one has. I like that the pose is a bit different than things I've done in the past, at least. But I found that the one in the middle on the bottom row was a little bit more dynamic. There was more flow to it. So yeah, that's kind of where I was torn which direction to go, which one I felt like would work well and correctly. And yeah, so that was something that I needed to spend a little bit of time thinking about, stepping away from it and then looking at it again later. That is one thing that almost always helps, is really does bring a lot of clarity to it, especially when I might have a certain bias for something or against something, and then when I can step away and then look at it again, I'll get that almost first read kind of feeling where I can see it a little bit more for what it is rather than what I wish it was or what I think it might be. And that helps me to make a decision when I'm kind of at an impasse like I was with these two. And now it's time to work on the refined sketch. I was excited to work on refining this one. Sometimes not so much. I'm not so thrilled about it because many pieces I have to overcome a lot of challenges to get it from the thumbnail stage to the final step, to the final sketch, which is definitely an okay thing. It means that I am challenging myself and it's pushing me beyond easy limits, but it's nice when it's something that I feel like I can sit down and I already know the anatomy well enough that I can just dive in to start sketching it rather than spending time trying to source or take my own reference. This was one of those. It's a basic pose that I've drawn many times before, so I've become acquainted with how to draw the figure like this, where I can just sit down and make it work, and it's nice. It's nice to be able to work on just the flow of the piece and the details, and not get so clogged up on a lot of the things that can slow this step down. So yeah, working on the sketch ended up being a lot of drawing of details and then erasing the details and then drawing new details. I do not like getting into that little pointless path when I'm working on a sketch. That happens to me all the time where I change it and I make it different but not really better because I'm indecisive on things that don't really impact the overall quality of the piece. They're just different dresses, different accessories, different tattoos, and I try to cut that kind of thing out where I get stalled out redoing the same things. It can just wear away at my my enjoyment of working on the sketch. So I try to keep that at a minimum. Not that I try to not think through details or think through how I can actually draw it better, but more I try not to let myself get into a trap of just drawing different iterations of the same thing, like 5 or 7 different sleeve options, when if I just took a minute to think about what are the pros and the cons of certain ones, and then I can start pushing it in the right direction rather than just kind of shotgun approaching it where I just try a bunch of different things until something seems to look right. That was probably my biggest time waste, or I don't know, I even hesitate to call it a waste even in this context, but it could have been done more efficiently. I could have done it in a way that I would have enjoyed the process more, and I could have gotten to the point a lot quicker. And this sketch will be turned into a final piece, and that final piece will be the July postcard for Patreon. So if you'd like to get a print of what this piece ends up being, then make sure to sign up for the Malachite or the Citrine tiers over on one of those over on my Patreon. That's the package and the postcard tiers. And you have until July 31st to sign up for that. So yeah, go check that out. There's a link in my description that'll take you over there. And I have the full set of enamel pins from my Kickstarter from last year. Those are available at my shop now. There is a link in the description that'll take you over to my shop as well. And that is it for today. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to all of my patrons for supporting me over on Patreon. And I'll see you guys next time.